The crash landing. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple as Sarah Chen locked up her workshop for the night. Her small engineering firm sat on the outskirts of Millbrook, a quiet town nestled in the rolling hills of upstate New York. At 32, Sarah had built a reputation as the go-to problem solver for anything mechanical within a 100-mile radius. As she walked to her beat-up pickup truck, a flash of light in the sky caught her attention. At first, she dismissed it as a meteor, but the object's erratic movement made her pause. It grew larger by the second, trailing smoke and emitting an otherworldly hum that sent shivers down her spine. "What in the world?" Sarah muttered, shielding her eyes as the object hurtled towards Earth. It crashed with a thunderous boom in the empty field behind her workshop, the impact shaking the ground beneath her feet. Curiosity overrode caution as Sarah sprinted towards the crash site. As the dust settled, she found herself face to face with a sight that defied explanation. A sleek, silver craft unlike anything she'd ever seen. Its hull shimmered with an iridescent glow, and strange symbols pulsed along its surface. "Hello," Sarah called out, her voice wavering. "Is anyone hurt?" A seam appeared in the craft's smooth exterior, and a ramp extended to the ground. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and lithe, with skin that shimmered like starlight and eyes that glowed with an inner fire, the being before her was unmistakably alien. "Greetings, Earthling," the alien said, her voice melodious yet tinged with urgency. "I am Empress Phyla of the Galactic Confederation. My ship has sustained damage, and I require assistance." Sarah blinked, her mind reeling. "I'm Sarah Chen. I'm an engineer. Maybe I can help." Phyla's eyes brightened. "An engineer. Fortune smiles upon me. My navigation systems are malfunctioning, and the quantum drive has destabilized. Without repairs, I cannot return to my people." Despite the surreal nature of the situation, Sarah's problem-solving instincts kicked in. "Let me take a look. I might not understand all of it, but I'm a quick study." As they entered the ship, Sarah marveled at the advanced technology surrounding her. Holographic displays flickered with alien script, and the air hummed with energy. Zyla led her to the engine room, where a pulsing crystal core sat at the center of a web of intricate machinery. "This is beyond anything I've ever seen," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Zyla nodded gravely. "Our technology is millennia ahead of Earth's current capabilities. However, I sense a keen mind in you, Sarah Chen. Perhaps together, we can find a solution." Over the next few hours, Sarah immersed herself in the alien systems. To her surprise, she found that many of the underlying principles weren't entirely foreign. It was as if the universe itself had a common language of physics and engineering, and Sarah was starting to decipher it. As dawn broke, Sarah wiped sweat from her brow and turned to Zyla with a grin. "I think I've got it. Your quantum drive was out of alignment, causing a cascade failure in your other systems. If we realign the crystal matrix and reroute power through the auxiliary conduits, we should be able to get you airborne." Zyla's eyes widened in surprise. "You understood our systems so quickly. Truly, the potential of your species is remarkable." Together, they worked to implement Sarah's solutions. As the last connection was made, the ship hummed to life, its systems glowing with renewed energy. Zyla placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder, her touch sending a tingle through the human's body. "You have done the impossible, Sarah Chen. You have not only repaired my ship, but have shown me the true capability of humanity. I find myself intrigued." Sarah felt a blush creep across her cheeks. "I'm just glad I could help. It's not every day you get to work on an alien spaceship." As they exited the craft, the rising sun bathed the field in golden light. Zyla turned to Sarah, her expression serious. "I cannot simply leave after what has transpired here. Sarah Chen, I believe our meeting was not mere chance. Would you consider joining me? There is much our peoples could learn from each other." Sarah's heart raced at the prospect. Leave Earth, travel the stars. It was beyond her wildest dreams. Yet, as she looked at the alien empress, she felt a connection she couldn't explain. I need some time to think," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. Zyla nodded. "Of course. But know this, whether you choose to join me or not, your actions today have forged a bond between our worlds. The future, it seems, holds great promise for both our peoples." As Sarah watched Zyla return to her ship, her mind swirled with possibilities. Little did she know that her decision would not only change her life, but the course of human history itself. Unlikely collaboration. The following days passed in a blur for Sarah Chen. By day, she maintained her usual routine at the workshop, fixing tractors and repairing old cars. But each night, she found herself drawn back to the clearing where Empress Thyla's ship lay hidden beneath a sophisticated cloaking device. As the two worked side by side to fully restore the ship's capabilities, Sarah's mind expanded with each passing hour. Thyla patiently explained the intricacies of quantum entanglement drives and faster-than-light communication, while Sarah shared insights about human ingenuity and resourcefulness. One evening, as they took a break from their work, Thyla gazed at the stars above. "Your people have such a fascination with the cosmos," she mused. "Yet you've barely scratched the surface of what lies beyond." Sarah nodded, following Thyla's gaze. "We've always dreamed of exploring the stars, but I never imagined they'd come to us first." Thyla turned to Sarah, her luminescent eyes filled with curiosity. "Tell me, Sarah Chen, what drives your species? Despite your technological limitations, you've achieved so much in such a short time." Sarah thought for a moment. "I think it's our diversity," she said finally. "We come from different cultures, with different ideas and perspectives. When we work together, we can solve almost anything." As they continued their repairs, Sarah noticed Thyla growing increasingly pensive. Finally, the Empress spoke, her voice tinged with worry. "There is something I must confess, Sarah. My presence here is not merely the result of a navigation error." Sarah set down her tools, sensing the gravity in Thyla's tone. "What do you mean?" Thyla's form seemed to shimmer with tension. "I am in exile. There are factions within the Galactic Council who seek to overthrow me, to plunge our confederation into war. I feel it here to the edge of known space, to buy time and formulate a plan." The revelation hit Sarah like a thunderbolt. "So when we repair your ship, I must return to face my challengers," Thyla finished. "But now I find myself reluctant to leave. Your world, your people, you have shown me a different way of thinking." Sarah's mind raced. The fate of an entire galactic civilization potentially hung in the balance. Maybe that's exactly what you need," she said slowly. "A different perspective." Thyla's eyes brightened. "What do you mean?" "Well," Sarah continued, warming to her idea, "you said your rivals want war. But what if you could show them the benefits of cooperation instead? Earth may be technologically behind, but we've learned a lot about working together despite our differences." A smile spread across Thyla's face. "Sarah Chen, you continue to astound me. Your suggestion has merit, but it would be unprecedented. No human has ever set foot in the Galactic Council chambers." Sarah's heart raced at the implication. "Are you asking me to come with you?" Thyla nodded solemnly. "I am. But I must warn you, the dangers would be immense. My enemies would not hesitate to harm you to get to me." For a moment, Sarah was silent, weighing the enormity of the decision before her. Leave behind everything she knew, potentially never to return, or stay on Earth, always wondering about the wonders and challenges she might have faced among the stars. Finally, she met Thyla's gaze, her decision made. "I'm in," she said firmly. "If there's a chance we can prevent a war and bring our peoples together, it's worth the risk." Thyla's relief was palpable. "Thank you, Sarah. Your courage honors me. We must prepare quickly. My enemies will not wait long to make their move." As they redoubled their efforts to complete the ship's repairs, a new tension filled the air, a mix of excitement and apprehension. Sarah knew that once they left Earth's atmosphere, there would be no turning back. Late one night, as the ship's systems finally hummed in perfect harmony, Scylla approached Sarah with a small glowing device. "This is for you," she said softly. "A universal translator. It will allow you to understand and be understood by any species in the Confederation." Sarah took the device, marveling at its elegant design. As she activated it, a wave of tingling energy washed over her. Suddenly, the strange symbols on the ship's control panels resolved into perfectly understandable text. "It's incredible," Sarah breathed. Scylla smiled, but her eyes held a hint of sadness. "Sarah, before we depart, I must ask you one last time. Are you certain about this? Once we leave, I cannot guarantee your safe return." Sarah took a deep breath, looking back towards the twinkling lights of Millbrook in the distance. Her whole life was there. Her family, her friends, her business. But as she turned back to Scylla and the ship that promised adventures beyond imagination, she knew her path was set. "I'm sure," she said, her voice steady. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together." As the first light of dawn began to paint the sky, Sarah Chen and Empress Scylla boarded the starship. With a hum that seemed to resonate through reality itself, the craft rose silently into the air. In a flash of light that outshone the rising sun, they vanished, leaving behind a world on the brink of a new era, one that would soon learn it was not alone in the universe. The offer of a lifetime. The vastness of space stretched out before Sarah Chen as Tyla's starship hurtled through the cosmos. Earth had long since disappeared from view, becoming just another twinkling point of light among billions. Sarah's mind reeled as she tried to process the sheer scale of her journey. "We're approaching the outskirts of Confederation space," Tyla announced, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. "Prepare yourself, Sarah. What you're about to see may overwhelm you." As if on cue, the starfield ahead shimmered and parted, revealing a sight that took Sarah's breath away. A massive space station, easily the size of a small moon, hung suspended against the backdrop of a swirling nebula. Its architecture was a blend of organic curves and crystalline structures, pulsing with energy that seemed alive. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Tyla said softly, the heart of the Galactic Confederation. As their ship approached, Sarah noticed the swarm of activity around the station. Vessels of all shapes and sizes darted about, some so alien in design that she could barely comprehend their function. "It's incredible," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Zyla smiled, but her expression quickly turned serious. "Sarah, before we dock, there's something we must discuss. My position. It's more precarious than I initially let on." Sarah turned to face the Empress, sensing the weight of her words. "What do you mean?" Thyla's form seemed to shimmer with tension. "The factions opposing me are stronger than I anticipated. They've been spreading rumors, claiming I've been corrupted by outside influences. My sudden disappearance has only fueled their propaganda." "So what can we do?" Sarah asked, her mind already racing with potential solutions. Tyla's eyes met Sarah's, filled with an intensity that made the human's heart skip a beat. "There is one option. It's unorthodox, perhaps even shocking by your standards, but it could solidify my position and protect both of us." Sarah raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "I'm listening." Tyla took a deep breath. "In our culture, political alliances are often sealed through union. Marriage, as you might call it. If we were to join in such a way, it would make you my consort. The opposition wouldn't dare move against a united front, especially one that represents an alliance with a new species." Sarah's jaw dropped. "You're proposing to me." "I know it's sudden," Tyla rushed to explain, "and I wouldn't ask if the situation weren't dire. But over these past days, I've come to admire your intelligence, your adaptability, your courage. I believe together, we could bring about a new era of cooperation between our peoples." Sarah's mind whirled. Marriage to an alien empress. It was beyond anything she could have imagined. Yet, as she looked into Scylla's eyes, She felt a connection that transcended species or culture. "What would this mean, exactly?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Xyla's expression softened. "You would rule by my side, have a voice in shaping galactic policy. Your insights could help bridge the gap between our civilizations." And she paused, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. "I believe we could find happiness together, in time." Sarah took a deep breath, weighing the enormity of the decision before her. On one hand, it was a commitment beyond anything she had ever considered. On the other, it was a chance to make a difference on a scale she had never dreamed possible. I need some time to think," Sarah said finally. Xyla nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Of course. We have a few hours before we dock. Take all the time you need." As Tyla returned to the ship's controls, Sarah retreated to a small observation deck. She stared out at the star-filled expanse, her thoughts a tumultuous storm. Could she really do this? Commit herself to a life among the stars, to a partner she had only known for days? Yet, as she reflected on their time together, Sarah realized that her connection with Xyla ran deeper than she had initially thought. They challenged each other, pushed each other to see things from new perspectives, and the potential to bring humanity into a larger galactic community was too significant to ignore. Hours passed as Sarah grappled with her decision. Finally, as Nexus Prime loomed large in the viewport, she returned to the bridge. Xyla turned to her, a question in her luminescent eyes. Sarah took a deep breath and smiled. "Yes," she said simply. "I'll marry you." Relief and joy washed over Xyla's face. She reached out, taking Sarah's hands in her own. "Thank you, Sarah Chen. Together, we will forge a future brighter than either of us could have imagined alone." As their ship prepared to dock, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. She was about to step into a world beyond her wildest dreams, with challenges she could scarcely imagine. But as she stood beside Xyla, their hands intertwined, she knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The docking bay doors opened, revealing a delegation of alien dignitaries waiting to greet them. Sarah squared her shoulders, ready to embrace her new role as a bridge between worlds. Whatever came next, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. Challenges in the stars. The grand halls of Nexus Prime buzzed with activity as news of Empress Xyla's return spread like wildfire. Sarah Chen, still adapting to the dizzying array of alien sights and sounds, stood beside her new fiancé as they made their way to the Galactic Council chambers. "Remember," Xyla whispered, her voice barely audible above the commotion. "Many here will see you as a threat. Stay alert and trust no one but me." Sarah nodded, her hand instinctively moving to the small universal translator at her throat. As they entered the council chambers, a hush fell over the assembled delegates. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors turned to stare at the human who dared to stand alongside their empress. Hyla's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, I present to you Sarah Chen of Earth, my chosen consort and representative of humanity." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Sarah could feel the weight of countless alien gazes upon her, some curious, others hostile. From the shadows, a tall serpentine being slithered forward, its scales shimmering with an oily iridescence. "How convenient," the creature hissed, its forked tongue flicking out. "Our empress disappears under mysterious circumstances, only to return with a primitive species in tow. One might suspect outside manipulation." Tyla's eyes narrowed. "Watch your words, Chancellor Zix. You tread dangerously close to treason." Sarah, sensing the tension, stepped forward. "If I may," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I understand your suspicion, but I'm here as a gesture of goodwill, to learn from you as much as to share what humanity has to offer." She turned, addressing the entire council. "On Earth, we have a saying: unity in diversity. Our strength comes not from our similarities, but from how we complement each other's differences. Imagine what we could achieve if we applied that principle on a galactic scale. A low murmur of approval rippled through some of the delegates, but Chancellor Zix remained unmoved. Pretty words, he sneered, but they change nothing. The Empress has overstepped her bounds, and the Council will not stand for it. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing a massive fleet of warships emerging from hyperspace. "We're under attack," someone shouted. Chaos erupted as delegates scrambled for safety. Zyla grabbed Sarah's hand, pulling her towards a secure area. "It's the Void Collective," she explained hurriedly. "A rival faction that's been pushing for war. They must have seen my absence as an opportunity to strike." As they reached the command center, Sarah's engineering instincts kicked in. She scanned the displays, quickly grasping the dire situation. The Confederation's defensive systems were struggling against the onslaught. "Your shields," Sarah said, her mind racing. "They're not adapting fast enough to the enemy's weapons." Tyla looked at her, hope glimmering in her eyes. "Can you do something?" Sarah nodded, already moving towards the control interface. "On Earth, we developed adaptive algorithms for our cyber defenses. If I can integrate a similar principle into your shield systems." Her fingers flew over the alien controls, the universal translator allowing her to understand the complex systems. As she worked, she could hear the sounds of battle raging outside. "There," Sarah exclaimed after several tense minutes. "Try it now." Zyla relayed the command, and the entire station hummed with renewed energy. On the displays, they watched as the Confederation's shields pulsed with a new pattern, effortlessly deflecting the Void Collective's attacks. Chancellor Zix, who had been cowering in a corner, stared at Sarah in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered. With their primary advantage neutralized, the Void Collective's fleet began to retreat. Cheers erupted throughout the command center as the immediate danger passed. Zyla turned to Sarah, her eyes shining with pride and affection. "You've saved us all," she said softly. But their moment of triumph was short-lived. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Sarah noticed a strange shimmer in the air behind Zyla. Acting on instinct, she pushed the Empress aside just as a beam of energy sizzled through the space where Tyla had been standing. Chancellor Zix stood there, a small weapon in his hand, his form flickering as a cloaking device malfunctioned. "If I can't have the throne," he snarled, "no one will." Before he could fire again, Sarah grabbed a nearby piece of equipment and hurled it at the Chancellor. The improvised projectile struck true, knocking the weapon from Zix's hand and sending him sprawling. Security forces swarmed in, quickly subduing the would-be assassin. As Zix was led away, the remaining council members gathered around Sarah and Tyla, their earlier skepticism replaced by grudging respect. "It seems," one of the elder council members said, "that we owe both our Empress and her chosen consort a debt of gratitude. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered our stance on galactic cooperation." As the gravity of what had just transpired settled over them, Sarah felt Tyla's hand slip into her own. They had faced their first major crisis together and emerged victorious. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, but for the first time since leaving Earth, she felt truly certain of her place in this vast, star-filled universe. Together, they turned to face the Council, ready to begin the work of forging a new future for all their peoples. A new era for two worlds. The years that followed the Battle of Nexus Prime, as it came to be known, were a whirlwind of change and progress. Sarah Chen, once a small-town engineer from Earth, now stood as a respected figure in galactic politics, her union with Empress Tyla a symbol of the new era of cooperation between worlds. On a crisp autumn morning, Sarah stood on the balcony of the newly constructed Terran embassy on Nexus Prime, gazing out at the glittering expanse of the space station. The embassy, a striking blend of human and alien architecture, served as a beacon for the growing number of Earth representatives and tourists venturing into the stars. "Admiring the view, my love." Sila's melodious voice came from behind her. Sarah turned, smiling as her wife joined her on the balcony. "Just thinking about how far we've come," Sarah replied, leaning into Sila's embrace. "5 years ago, I was fixing tractors. Now, I'm helping to guide humanity's first steps into a galactic community." Sila's luminescent eyes sparkled with affection. "And you've done so with remarkable grace and wisdom. The council meeting today is proof of that." Sarah nodded, her expression turning serious. "The vote on the Technology Exchange Act is crucial. If it passes, it could revolutionize life on Earth and elevate humanity's position in the Confederation." As they made their way to the council chambers, Sarah reflected on the challenges they had faced. The early days had been fraught with suspicion and resistance from both sides. Many on Earth had feared alien influence, while some in the Confederation had seen humans as primitive upstarts. But gradually, through patience, diplomacy, and the occasional display of human ingenuity, attitudes had begun to shift. Sarah's adaptive shield technology, which had saved Nexus Prime, had been just the beginning. Human creativity, combined with alien advanced science, had led to breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and space travel. The council chamber buzzed with anticipation as delegates from across the galaxy gathered for the vote. Sarah took her place beside Sila, nodding in greeting to the Earth ambassador, a position that hadn't even existed when she first arrived on Nexus Prime. As the session began, Sarah stood to address the assembly. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice steady and clear. "Today we stand on the brink of a new chapter in our shared history. The Technology Exchange Act represents not just an agreement between worlds, but a commitment to a future where all our peoples can thrive together." She paused, looking around the chamber. "I've heard the concerns. Some fear that advancing Earth too quickly could destabilize the galactic economy. Others worry about human culture being overwhelmed by alien influence. But I ask you to consider this. Diversity has always been our greatest strength. By embracing our differences and sharing our knowledge, we open doors to possibilities none of us could have imagined alone." As Sarah continued her speech, she could see the impact of her words. Delegates who had been skeptical now leaned forward, engaged. Even some of her former critics nodded in agreement. When the vote came, it was closer than Sarah had hoped. But in the end, the act passed. A cheer went up from the Earth delegation, echoed by many of their alien allies. As the council adjourned, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had done it. The path was now open for Earth to take its place as a full member of the galactic community. Zyla approached, beaming with pride. "You were magnificent," she said, taking Sarah's hand. "Your people should be proud." Before Sarah could respond, her communicator chimed. It was a priority message from Earth. As she read it, her eyes widened in surprise and joy. "What is it?" Zyla asked, noticing her expression. Sarah looked up, a mix of emotions playing across her face. "They've done it," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "Using the principles we shared from your quantum drive technology, Earth has just successfully tested its first faster-than-light ship." Zyla's eyes sparkled. "It seems the students may soon become the teachers," she said warmly. "Your people never cease to amaze me." As news of Earth's achievements spread through Nexus Prime, Sarah found herself at the center of a whirlwind of congratulations and questions. Delegates from across the galaxy approached her, eager to discuss the implications of this latest development. Later that evening, as the celebrations wound down, Sarah and Sila stood once again on the balcony of the Terran embassy. The stars seemed to shine brighter than ever, full of promise and possibility. "What are you thinking?" Zyla asked softly, noticing Sarah's contemplative expression. Sarah smiled, squeezing Sila's hand. "I'm thinking about that night in my workshop, when a strange light in the sky changed everything. About how one small act of kindness and curiosity led to all of this." She gestured at the bustling space station around them. Zyla nodded, understanding in her eyes. "The universe works in mysterious ways. but I believe it brought us together for a reason." As they stood there, looking out at the vast expanse of space, Sarah felt a sense of peace and purpose wash over her. The journey had been long and often difficult, but it had led to something greater than she could have ever imagined. Earth was taking its first true steps into the galactic community, and Sarah Chen, once a small-town mechanic, now a bridge between worlds, would be there to guide the way. With Attila by her side and the stars stretched out before them, the future seemed limitless. The story of humanity's ascension to the stars had only just begun, and Sarah couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring.